There's so much theory and coaching around relationships. So what makes your book, Let's Get This Straight, 7 Simple Questions to Create Happiness in Relationships, different from the rest?
Well, I think the main thing is that instead of presuming to offer one kind of across the board reason why relationships don't work and a method to solve it, what I do is I offer a method to work with and train your own way of thinking so that it becomes fitter, if you like, so it's more able to solve difficulties in the future.
You advise against finding the problem in a relationship and trying to fix it. So what should we do instead?
Well, first of all, the problem with finding the problem is that who says that you've identified the right problem? So if I think I've diagnosed my relationship, I will obviously think that my diagnosis is a reasonable one. So I will believe my own story about what the cause of the difficulties in the relationship are. And similarly, if I just go looking for, if I ask the question, well, why is our relationship not working? The answers I will accept will just be the answers that I consider the reasonable ones, which are the answers that I'm familiar with vaguely, and which already kind of have a place in my frame of reference. So actually what happens if I ask the question why is I simply reinforce the frame of reference I had at the beginning, which takes me back to square one. So this is why I advise against asking the question why. Instead of asking the question why, what I would suggest people do is to examine the way they think and to ask questions that will reveal whether their way of thinking is actually supporting them. And if they see it's not supporting them, to ask questions which will train their thinking so that it becomes more able to support a healthy, enjoyable relationship.
You use the metaphor of a hiking trip to describe an effective way of approaching a relationship. Can you explain what you mean by this?
Well, let me take it as kind of a bit wider. Sense of purpose and intention is something that you and I use on a daily basis for a lot of things in life. And it actually applies our thinking in a very, very different way than we usually use when we think about our relationships. Just like when we go hiking, we decide, I want to do this walk, and we plan it and we do it. But we're doing this everywhere. We're doing it when we start up a business, or when we decide to have a family, or when we decide to cook a meal. It starts with us deciding, having an intention to do something, meaning it enough to make it happen. And actually, this is how we start relationships. But then along the way, we kind of forgot that the reason we had it was nothing more than an intention. And then we give up when we find reasons to be unhappy. So what I'm suggesting is that if you can train yourself to stay connected with your intention, then actually things that look like a chore turn out to be investments that we're very, very willing to make and actually enjoy doing. Like in walking, we enjoy putting in the effort to walk the walk. And it is possible to enjoy putting in the effort to make a relationship work.
Values figure big in your book. Can you explain what exactly are our values?
Well, values are those intangible moral qualities that actually deep down most of us consider extremely important. Example of values could be togetherness, honesty, integrity, leadership, openness. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of values. And values are potentially very, very powerful navigation systems. Most of us find values very, very important, although we're probably not aware of it. And when we ask ourselves the question, well, which values do I consider really, really important in my life and in my relationship? And what do they actually mean? Well, then we can develop and create a navigation system for ourselves, which will give us direction, but it'll also allow us to check whether we're going in the right direction and whether we're actually in integrity with what we claim to be important in our life.
So could this help you when you're deciding whether you should actually start a relationship with someone, or whether you think you should start to go forwards into a deeper, say, business relationship with someone, or even whether you should decide to call it a day and divorce?
Yeah, this could absolutely help. Yeah, very often when we make decisions not based on values, those decisions will simply be a reaction. In that sense, we've been triggered by something. If you're clear on the values you stand for, that allows you to make a real choice, not as a reaction to something, but as an expression of what you stand for in your life.